Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy podcast. Each week, we expose the faulty foundational mindsets of the past and rebuild a newer, stronger foundation essential in creating your meaningful legacy. We've got a lot of work to do, so let's get started. As much as you like this podcast, I'm certain that you're going to love the book that I just released on Amazon, Fuel Your Legacy, The 9 Pillars to Build a Meaningful Legacy. I wrote this to share with you the experiences that I had while I was identifying my identity, how I began to create my meaningful legacy, and how you can create yours. You're going to find this book on Kindle, Amazon, and as always on my website, samknickerbocker.com. Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy show, and today we have another wonderful guest. I haven't had very many people out of Colorado on, so I'm grateful that we get a chat. She's from Littleton, where my wife and I actually did summer sales out there about 5 years ago. Lived there in Littleton. Beautiful place. If you ever get a chance to travel to Colorado, I would say Littleton is a great place to stay. And then you're close to everything. It's phenomenal. But our guest today is Careyann Golliver. And she's a super accomplished woman, but primarily we're going to talk about her ability to help people achieve or acquire the right franchise for them. So she has kind of a movement, called Women Waking Up to Wealth. Girls Have Guns Too. The secret weapon to how women are dominating the franchise industry and finding their rich. And it's so important to understand, what is your type of rich? Because everybody has a different definition. And that's one of the things that a great franchise consultant like Careyann is going to help you identify. What does rich mean to you? What type of lifestyle are you building? And then go find a franchise that's going to help you achieve the lifestyle that you want. And it may not be what you thought the type of franchise you wanted, but it's the right franchise based on lifestyle. So I'm super, super pumped to hear about this. But Careyann, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us your story. What were you doing before you got into this space? And why did you ultimately make the jump into your passion of helping other people, and specifically women, find their rich for their life?
Yes, and thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and share my story. We all have stories, and I think they're all very unique to the paths that we take in life. And, everybody's path kind of has twists and turns to it. So it's always fun to share my story. My story is pretty unique because where I ended up is really nowhere where I thought I would be. And that's usually what happens to most of us. And that's usually where the real magic actually happens, right? So in my corporate time, I spent most of my time in sales and marketing. And I found a real niche in startup companies. I love the energy and building new things and creating new things and taking it to market. The problem with it is most of the time, I still didn't have all the authority or the control. And there was always some Yahoo with a startup that was stopping it. So it was frustrating because it was kind of like a start, stop, right? I mean, I'd show up at the office and there was like a cryptic note on the door saying, call me. And then I find out the business is no longer. So it was really kind of frustrating for me. And I was sitting down at a dinner party with some family. So my brother-in-law and my sister were all very close. We were just having a party, drinking some fine wine and, eating some good food and talking about what do we want to do when we grow up? I mean, my brother-in-law was from the restaurant industry. My sister and him were really getting ready to start a family. And being in the restaurant industry is not very conducive for that. And we're all just having some conversations, and we actually came up with a business idea. Now, for those of you that don't live in Colorado, you may not know what a swamp cooler is, but here in Colorado, we actually really love swamp coolers because it is such a dry climate, and it's referred to as a poor man's air conditioning unit. So my brother-in-law and my sister had a swamp cooler in their house that he was always fixing and repairing. And at his previous job as a general manager at a very well-known restaurant downtown, he always was fixing and repairing those swamp coolers. And so he said, I know, I'm going to be swamp boy, and I'm going to fix and repair swamp coolers. And we all kind of just looked at him. I mean, the first thing I thought of was, cut him off. He's had too much wine. Like, what are you talking about, right? And then we just started talking more about it. And we literally put an ad in the paper that Sunday, call Swamp Boy for your swamp cooler repair and fix it issues. And by golly, the phone started ringing. And we were just like, holy smokes. We literally started this business in the basement of their house. And we grew it to a multi-million-dollar business. And it morphed into just a regular swamp cool repair and fix it to a full-blown handyman service. And our mission and goal was really to raise the bar, because it's pathetically low out there, and to really change the face of what people normally think of when they think of a handyman. And so we also wanted to help little Grandma Sally, who needed her garbage disposal replaced or her screen door fixed, because that is what normal contractors pass up every single day. They could care less about Grandma Sally. So we had a lot of passion, a lot of energy, and we created this full-blown handyman business. We grew to multi-territories here in the Colorado market, and then someone came to us and said, wow, you guys should think about franchising this business. And we were like, whoa, what is that all about? So we learned all about franchising, and we decided ultimately to franchise our business. So we franchised it the latter part of 2001 after we started it in 1997 in the basement. And we grew phenomenally. We were the top rated national handyman franchise for a couple decades. And 2 years ago in September, Ace Hardware acquired us. So that's how the story continues to flow. But here's the thing. I learned a lot during that journey. Obviously, that's how I got immersed into franchising. But what I realized was, I love my family, but I really was craving something that was mine. I wanted to have all the authority to make all the decisions. And what I also learned is that there is a tremendous amount of people out there that love the idea of taking someone else's proven model and being able to execute it in their desired geographic area and happily escape corporate America and be able to employ people in their community, create an asset, be in charge, take back control, get away from the corporate BS. But they just, unfortunately, rely too heavily on a Google search or friends or family to tell them which business to buy. And I saw there was a huge void in helping people really identify the right franchises that'll take advantage of their skill sets, that are available in their market, that are within their spend tolerance, giving them the kind of role that they want to play, the right cultural fit of a business partner, and really help them conduct proper due diligence, because this is a huge, huge, huge decision next to buying a house. And most importantly, I'm a girly girl, okay? We were very successful with our handyman business. I bought many houses. Most of my houses at that time were 3-bedroom, 4-bath. I did not have a husband, and all my neighbors were like, who is this chick and why is she in our neighborhood and where's her husband, right? I would literally mow the yard in my flip-flops that have high heels because I was aerating at the same time I was mowing because I'm very effective with my time. But who would have ever thought that I would be involved in a handyman business, right? So I think that's really important to take note, is that women are awesome and we kick butt in male-dominated businesses. I can't tell you how many strong females I've put in handyman, HVAC, plumbing franchises that know nothing about plumbing and don't need to, and are wildly successful, growing very big businesses.
That's fascinating. This is very much a side note, but I think it's funny. In topic of conversation, I was up at some camp up in the mountains, and they had ordered somebody to come and clean out the honey buckets, cleaning out the porta potties. And it was 2 women who showed up driving the truck, cleaning it out. And I was like, that's crazy. Like, I was so shocked, and I don't know why I was so shocked, but I was shocked to see that 2 women had chosen that as a career, but probably because it pays really good. I don't know. I still don't know why. I just don't have the stomach for it. So that's why I don't do it. But
and they may not be the owners, but right. The owner may be a female that is basically project management and, issuing the trucks to go out to certain stops. And she is managing and leading and focusing on the KPIs and growing a fantastic business that's probably customer centric.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was just fascinating. So I want to jump back a little bit because in my experience, I'm going to call you out just a tad, okay? Yeah. But that's the purpose of this podcast, is to really get the rawness.
Bring it on.
So it's really, really common for when I have guests who are women, especially when they're in male-dominated industries, to go right to the business side of their life, because that's what is, I don't know, common. I don't know if the right word is commonly respected. I don't know if that's the right terminology, but it's what's coming to my mind right now. And they pass over their family life. And for me, I think what makes women phenomenal at business is the fact that they have the ability to manage a household. And the household, whether you like it or not, is the smallest and most basic unit of business. And once you understand that, it's so much easier to duplicate. All of us men, we are out playing business and we have little experience because we don't ever have to run it. But family is so different than managing employees, because an employee you can fire. A 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, you can't fire them. And so you have to learn to work with and negotiate in a way that many men have never had to learn. So I don't want to pass over the incredibleness that you're a woman and you're a mother and you have family as well, or a daughter, or we're a wife, I don't know. So talk more about your family and how those experiences in your family helped you launch into this career, like being able to recognize the needs.
Well, I mean, I think what we did was we were very active listeners, and we paid attention to what our community said that they needed, that they weren't getting, which is why our business kind of morphed into what it was. But going back to my childhood, I mean, my parents were, entrepreneurial. My father at one point bought a pheasant farm in Kansas with his best friend. He tried all these crazy, he did the Amway thing, and he was selling toothpaste. And he was doing all kinds of, he'd order these sales tapes, and he was going to go out and sell all this crazy stuff. And he was more of the entrepreneur. My mother is the total opposite. She's just, they both were teachers. She ended up being a English professor at Adams State College in Alamosa, Colorado. And she taught English to foreign students. My father was a biology teacher, and he strived every day to make sure that no one got an A on his tests. And he was also a big hunter, which is why I think, I gravitated towards the mountains, and I hunt with my husband. I shoot guns. But I'm also, again, very girly, right? So, would love to go fishing. So he really instilled that stuff in me. But my father was like, what are you girls doing? Because my father's mentality was, you work for a company until you get the Rolex and then you retire. And we all know that does not exist anymore, because in my opinion, every day you go to work for somebody else, you're basically renting your time and your talent to build wealth for someone who will and can get rid of you in a heartbeat, right? When times get tough. I think we saw that in the pandemic. And so for me, I went to journalism school because I had this fascination of being on the news and being a journalist. And I went to school literally for 6 months, and I told my parents, don't waste your money. I'm way smarter than all my professors. This is not for me. And I never went back to college. and I don't have a degree, and my husband doesn't have a degree. I don't think that matters. And actually, there's a lot of people that are like, well, I've often thought about buying a franchise, but I don't have an MBA. I'm like, well, neither do I, right? Like that's not a requirement. I mean, if you think it's about some of the most famous founders, McDonald's, KFC, they didn't have all that education either. They just followed their passion and their heart. And so I think, my upbringing was we lived in a very strict household. And, my father passed away years ago, but thankfully before he did pass, he finally realized, because he kept asking my sister and I, when are you guys going to get a real job? Like, what are you doing here in the basement? This is totally crazy. And it's like, Dad, this is what we're doing. We have customers. We have craftsmen. We have craftswomen. Like, we are serving our community. And before he passed, he finally, the light bulb went on and he realized it. He was like, he told us how proud he was of what we had been able to accomplish. And I'm very thankful and grateful that we had that before he left. But, I think that I always went against the grain. I never wanted to do anything normal. I was always trying to be more creative. I've never thought that whatever I did, I would not be successful, because I don't know how, I'm not afraid of failure. I think failure gets a bad rap personally, because failure is where you learn. Failure is where you, gain a lot of knowledge. And if you're not failing, then you're not moving anywhere. I mean, there are people that think that, their corporate job is their safety net. And I say, it's not your safety net, it's your dragnet. Like, you're not going to get anywhere. You're not building any annuity. You're not, I talk to people, believe it or not, the males have not gone on vacation in 6 years with their family. They send their family to vacation, but they stay in work because they're paranoid that if they go on vacation, they will be replaced. That's not a way to live your life.
Exactly. So a question about that, because I hear, and maybe I'm unique, or maybe I just like to play devil's advocate, I don't know, but corporate America, I will fight against corporate America just as much as the next guy. Okay. Like I'm not in love with corporate America, but at some level, I also think we have to learn to appreciate corporate America, because running a solo band is really easy. Like if you just want to run your own little shop all by yourself, that's fine. But at some point, if you want to scale something, then you need people who like corporate America. So corporate America is not for everybody. I get it. But neither is entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship is, I think, for less people than corporate America is for. And maybe that's because of how we're trained. Maybe that's, I don't know what the reason is. But when I'm looking to scale my business, or when you're helping somebody become a franchise owner, and when I say franchise owner, really a franchisee, part of another person's franchise, couldn't I make the argument that you're stepping into just a different corporate America style? I mean, because you still have rules, you still have regulations, you still have people who from the franchise ownership who are going to come and make sure that quality control is being done. And it's just maybe a slightly more free version of corporate America. And you're placing yourself at the top of the chain in your little business, rather than at the bottom where you could be fired. Now you have the ability to fire somebody rather than you be fired. But I feel like it's still corporate America. You're just helping somebody get on top of corporate America. So that's my devil's advocate, even though I'm fully on board with what you're doing. I'm just trying to understand the thought process here, because I've had people push back with me against that. I'm like, well, let's ask the expert. How does a franchise, or choosing to franchise something, different than being in corporate America?
Yeah, that's a topic that comes up frequently. I like to use the term entrepreneur light. So they're not a full entrepreneur. Maybe they're going to get their MBA in a franchise and then eventually start something on their own. But it's a great learning foundation. But here's the thing. Make no mistake, you are fully in control. It is your business. And these are real businesses that you see out there every day. All the time people ask me, oh, but I'm not interested in, multi-level marketing. Well, neither am I. I don't represent those because I represent real businesses that you're going to see surrounding your supermarket and on every block in every urban and suburban market in America today. And I really pride myself in working with some of the best franchise concepts in America today because they're not all created equal. There's some amazing opportunities. There's also a lot of crap. So you have to be really careful. So, you are in control of your business. You're in control of your clients, your customers, your marketing, your staff, and your revenue. And so they simply give you a blueprint and they're going to train you and literally be your business partner every day, all the time. Why? Because they're dependent upon you being successful. Because without you, they can't expand and grow, and the valuation of their business goes up. And you can't probably do it as good as they can on your own, starting from scratch. So there's a reason why franchise businesses, 90% of them are successful for 10 plus years. Non-franchise businesses almost never make it to their 6-year anniversary because they spend all their time and money marketing and educating the community why they're there, why they need to use them. By the time they get customers, they're out of money. So now, with that being said, there are very successful businesses. I mean, look at Tabasco is a very successful family-ran business. So I'm not saying it's impossible. I mean, if my family and I did it, pretty much anyone could do it. It's not rocket science, but it's franchising is speed to market. So for instance, just to trademark a name and have a logo that's going to draw your target audience, is $100,000, right? I mean, it's very, very expensive. And then if you want to get any patents, there you go, add some more dollars to it. So with a franchise, you're buying a business in a box. You're buying a proven model that as long as you execute the blueprint, you should be successful. If you buy the franchise, you get off of the reservation, you want to rewrite the ops manual, change the marketing, you're going to have very, very different results. And 99% of the time, it's not going to be better than the proven model. So yes, there are boundaries, there are rules. They're there for a reason to protect the brand because that's basically what you're buying is you're buying the licensed trademark to expand in your desired geographic area. You don't want that to be ruined. So those rules and boundaries and parameters are there to protect the brand that you just purchased.
You bought into a brand. And so that's what it's there for. That's a good description. Yeah. Cause I've just heard people that, well, you're still in corporate. And if not, I mean, how would you define, like, let's say I go work for, a franchisee who franchised a Subway. I'm going to use Subway. Hopefully they don't kill me for using their name. I like Subway, so that's why I'm using Subway. It's not because I don't like them. But if I'm working for Subway as a branch manager or a store manager, in my mind, I would still consider myself being part of corporate America.
Okay.
If I'm working as a branch manager and hoping to one day be like the full store manager and that's it, right? And I have no aspirations of owning the place. I'm still part of corporate America, which means the owner of that is just the owner of my little cell of corporate America. That's what I'm trying to define. What is corporate America versus a franchise?
Corporate America.
Corporate America.
So if you work for corporate America, you get a paycheck, hopefully. You get benefits. As long as you're working there, hopefully they're going to pay. You get benefits. You have a sense of security. But again, you don't have any control. You could be the best employee they've ever had. And when times get tough for them, they could let you go tomorrow, right? Because you don't have the authority. So you have a sense of security, you get benefits, and you get a paycheck. And the government takes it, and then at the end of the day, you get what's left over. With a business, you have this really interesting thing called shareholder benefits. So you can take a tremendous amount of advantages of that. Let's say you bought a pest control business and you have to get branded vehicles on the road. as part of your marketing requirement under the franchise. Those are probably provided at a fleet discount from the franchisor's relationship from that vendor. So if you're just Joe Schmo pest control, you're going to be you're not going to get a discount, right? Because you're just Joe Schmo. But if you're ABC Pest Control franchise, you're going to pay a fraction of the cost to lease those vehicles, and you write off those vehicles at tax time because you have to have them for your business. You can't write off your car payment for your taxes for going to work for corporate America unless you're in a role that requires you to be utilizing, and then they're probably going to provide you a company car, not using your personal car. So you can write off daycare. You can write off cell phones, internet, a portion of your mortgage if you're home-based. There are so many tremendous benefits. So guess what that means? You're keeping the majority of the margin. So, and you can still pay yourself a paycheck. In fact, I encourage everyone that goes into business, make sure you cut yourself a paycheck every 2 weeks, because there's a psychological effect to that, because you're going to be working really hard. And you made a point, corporate America is not for everybody, and neither is business ownership, franchise or non-franchise. It is hard and it is challenging, and you have to be able to make decisions on a dime, important decisions. And so it's not rainbows and unicorns every day, but the reward at the end of it. So if you work for corporate, you have probably made a tremendous amount of personal sacrifices, not going on vacation, who knows what. You have to wear what they want you to wear, say what they want you to say. Don't say these things to those people. You have no control of who ends up in your department that you have to manage. You have no control over any of that stuff. You're told what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and how often to do it. And you're not really recognized as anything outside of that, because that's what you were hired for. So when you buy a business or become a business owner, you are still going to make personal sacrifices. But at the end of the day, you're going to reap all the rewards from those personal sacrifices, right? You're going to be able to go live in Spain for 3 months if you so wish to, right? You're building an asset that you're in control of, that you own the majority of, that you can then leave as a legacy to children down the road or sell in 5 to 7 years for a nice multiple. But this asset has value, and that value goes directly to you. You're able to employ people in your community and change their lives. Maybe your franchise is going to provide a positive impact to the community. So much more rewarding. And at the end of the day, you have something tangible that you can sell when you're ready to officially retire, but you're still going to be making personal sacrifices. If you're in a career transition, you want to keep your job, but you want to build a plan B, a transitional career bridge out of corporate America so you can happily escape down the road when it's generating the income that you're getting today or increased from today, then you're going to sacrifice time because you still have life and you still have your job, right? And you're going to have to carve out time to focus on a manager that runs the day-to-day, because let's face it, nobody is going to give a crap about your business more than you are. So you have to lead, manage, and focus on KPIs. At the same time, your responsibilities to your day job, but that means you can have a paycheck and you can have a business. You don't have to choose one or the other. If you say, I'm going to cut the cord from corporate America, I'm firing my boss, I am done, put a fork in me, this is going to be my next career for the next 5, 7, however many years you see on the horizon, you're going to sacrifice immediate income. Because there's no business out there, including a franchise, that you're going to make money today or buy today and make money tomorrow. However, I love to focus on low investment, rapid break even, and very high margin businesses, because who doesn't want that? and so I think either way, you're going to make personal sacrifices. Just like people go, oh my gosh, well, we can't run around as a business owner uninsured. No way. nor would anyone want you to. You're still going to have insurance. You're just going to run it through the business and get a tax deduction. That's another one of those wonderful shareholder distribution benefits that you get as an owner versus having your company pay for. And by the way, I think companies really inflate to the employees what they're really paying for on the insurance side. So no, you're not going to walk around uninsured. You're just going to run it through the business and get tax deductions on it. What's the big deal, right? Yeah. Either way, somebody's going to have to pay for it.
Yep, I absolutely agree. So let's transition a little bit farther down the story, because you started your first franchise in the 90s, right? Early 90s?
We started our business in the late 90s, and then we franchised in the latter part of 2001.
Okay, so early 90s. How many people were there in this little mastermind of yours when you were deciding what do we want to do when we grow up?
4.
Just 4 of you. And
4.
This is the thing that I think is important. And I'm assuming that if you were to sit down with somebody, you're going to walk through a lot of these questions of what do they love doing? What are they passionate about? Really identifying who they are before you marry it. When I say marry them. And it's funny you said this is the biggest life decision short of buying a home. I think this ranks up there with finding a spouse, because you're going to be married to your business for a while, and you got to just accept that. And specifically, you and your spouse need to accept that. If you're married, you got to understand that both of you need to court this. Both of you need to be happy. Both of you need to be on board with what's going on. But something you said, something I got from what you said is, what do you find yourself doing often? And if you're doing it, then there's probably a lot of other people who are also doing it themselves. So one, what do you find yourself doing a lot? And then what niche do you feel like needs a better solution in the marketplace? We all have things on a daily basis that we complain about, or that we recognize, even if we're not complaining, we recognize that could be done better. That could be done more efficient. That could be done differently, right? What if you were the person that came up with that solution? Because if you're thinking it, there's probably a million other people who are thinking it. In your example, it started out with swamp coolers. Everybody has swamp coolers, right? So who's servicing their swamp coolers? Well, probably the people are. Well, what if we could provide a cost-effective trade of value so they could go spend more time with their family, their kids, whatever, and we could take that responsibility from them? And then you advertised it, and it was...
Well, yeah, and actually, I'll tell you what happened is I would send my brother-in-law out on an appointment. Now, he's very charismatic by nature, but none of the homeowners wanted him to leave. They were like, oh, wait, before you go, do you know anybody that does carpentry? Do you know anyone that can fix some drywall? Do you know anyone that blah, blah, blah? And every day he would come back to the basement going, I don't know what's going on, but apparently nobody can get a handyman out. And we literally picked up the phone book. Back in the late 90s, there was no such thing as a no-call list.
Yellow pages, baby. Yellow pages.
And we literally called 300 and some odd homeowners and just said, do you have a handyman? Would you like to have a handyman service? What are the things you would like the handyman service to do for you? And what are you willing to pay for them? And that is literally how we built the business model.
That's a lot of legwork for sure. Now we have Facebook. You could do that in a lot faster probably. But I would say only probably, because the reality is that personal touch and that initial conversation, you can now recall all of those people. That was back when people answered their phone.
Yeah, right.
And call all of those people and say,
had a home line, right? Hardly nobody has a home line anymore. No.
It's like, who even has a home phone number? I don't know. I don't know why they're still on government forms. Like, are we dealing with, probably older people do. So yeah, I shouldn't make fun of them publicly. But you're exactly right. So that initial contact, though, that's a lot of legwork, and a lot of people get into business thinking, well, I'm going to get this system, and I'm not going to have to put in the legwork. I'm not going to have to put in the upstart getting people known, especially when they're buying into a recognized brand. They think, well, why would I need to do?
Well, if you're buying a recognized brand, you're paying too much for it, and you've already missed the opportunity.
Okay? There you go. That I've never thought about buying them because I've not had the desire to do that. I like what I do for work. So, but I think it's important. So what are some basic questions somebody could ask themselves to determine whether or not they would be a good fit for a franchisee, right? Because again, not everybody is a good fit to be a franchisee. Probably more people are than think they are, though. So what are some questions that somebody could just ask themselves, jot down on a piece of paper, and go through some introspection to determine, is this worth pursuing, to just identify if I would be a good fit for a franchise?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. So here's the thing, like, nobody really knows, and I don't even know when I start working with people if franchising is a good fit for them or not until we get going. And so it's really all about keeping an open mind and looking, doing a self-discovery with themselves first. Number one, where am I sitting financially? Can I even afford to think about buying a franchise, right? And we can talk about that because I think there's a huge myth out there that only the rich can afford franchises. So we'll talk about that. But basically, you need to know financially, what does your picture look like? What is your liquidity? What is your net worth? What is your credit score? All that's going to play a part in getting you pre-qualified on the funding side. And I am not a funding expert, nor would I ever want to be a funding expert. I'm a franchise matchmaking expert, but I have funding connections that I use the top 2-tier lending funding resources out there that help people buy businesses every day, not just franchises. So I connect everyone that I'm working with those funding experts to gain free education about their financial picture so they can see, oh gosh, I actually have 4 different options that I could consider should I get excited about something Careyann shows me, right? So we make that connection, but really they need to say, why do I want to be a business owner? What attracts me to being a business owner? What are my strengths? What are the things that I love to do, that I enjoy doing, that I'm really good at? Because at the end of the day, those strengths are going to be important to the matchmaking of the franchise, right? So am I good at sales? Am I good at marketing? Am I good at building relationships? Am I a good communicator? Don't ever brag about being a multitasker, folks. What is that book? Oh, I just read it in my book club talking about the one thing. I can't remember the author. Somebody out there listening probably knows what it is. But if you basically brag about being a multitasker, you're basically bragging that you do everything half-ass. So don't do that. Nobody wants a half-asser out there, right? And I don't know if I could say that or not.
Hey, say what you want. I agree with you. I agree with you entirely. Sometimes I catch myself in that, or my wife, and we're like, oh, well, we're just multitasking. It's like, wait, no, my brain doesn't nobody's brain multitasks. Some women's brain switches faster than men's between tasks, but it's not multitasking. It's switching really fast, and it's causing a lot of disconnection and chaos.
Chaos, yeah. It's the same theory of you can't be sad and happy at the same time. Like, it's physically impossible for you to be negative and positive at the same time. So really understand, what are your motivations? Why is this even remotely attractive to you? Don't think about, oh, I love coffee, help me buy a coffee franchise, right? No. This is not a passion play. You leave your passions and your hobbies on the sidelines. The franchise is an investment vehicle that's going to get you from A to B. Mm-hmm. So, think about your motivations, your strengths. Can you even remotely, consider, if you have a credit score of 250, no, sorry, it's not going to go anywhere, right? I mean, you have to be anchored by reality. But, in today's climate, people typically have to make a down payment of 30% of the total investment of a franchise. So, for example, if we showed somebody something based on all the time that we spend with them, identifying what would make up an ideal opportunity for them, so we're not wasting their time, right? Because nobody has time to waste, including moi. So we're going to be really laser focused. And we show them something that costs $250,000, right? Their 30% is going to be $75,000, right? 30% of 250, 75. And then smart debt can cover the delta. Smart debt. So Smart business people use OPM, other people's money. That's why they have money. So using smart debt, maybe a small business loan, maybe borrowing some of your IRA or 401k dollars to yourself, not all of it, but maybe a portion of it, tax-free and penalty-free, to start your own business that you're going to be in control of and reap all the benefits and make money. There stock portfolio loans. There's endless options, right, for smart debt. We don't want anybody betting farm. I mean, I work with people that have net worths as low as 250,000, as high as 10 million, right? It doesn't matter. We figure out, what is your spend tolerance? What are you going to be comfortable coming to the table for the right opportunity after you've done all your homework, you've touched it, you felt it, you've talked to franchise owners that bought it, you've ran the numbers. What does that number look like? And we don't budge above that number. So we set the spend tolerance based on what they're going to be comfortable with, and we don't go above it, and we aim for less.
That's awesome. So how do you define or help somebody define what their rich is? Like what their, and when they think of rich, what does it look like for them? How do you help them define that? And how does that then influence potentially what type of lifestyle or franchises you would even look at?
Yeah, I mean, that's just one little piece really of the whole mixing and matching. We're going to have people look at multiple businesses because it's never a one and done scenario. And we're going to provide a huge amount of education about the three main categories of franchising, because there's brick and mortar, there's non-facility based, there's different price points, there's different roles that are required. Some don't allow you to be involved full time, some require you to be involved full time. Also, where your state is, where you want to grow. So there's a lot that goes into the matching. I mean, it's tremendous, but really understanding what their motivations are, right? Not everyone is driven by money and a big fat bank account. Not everyone wants their own jet. So they really need to define, what does rich mean to them? For many of the corporate travelers, it would be so awesome, Careyann, if I could go to bed every night in my bed and not in a hotel room anymore, right? It's not glamorous. That is rich to them. That is like the most amazing thing they could ever imagine, is being able to sleep in their own bed every night under their own roof that they pay for. So we really focus on motivations. What do they hope to accomplish with the business? And what are their motivations? Why do they want a business? Why is business ownership attractive to them? How does their brain work? How well do they manage others? So that's just one itty bitty little piece of, the puzzle of matching to the right model. And again, the model has to make sense. It has to be available in their market. It has to match up to their spend tolerance, has to give them the role that they want. But most importantly, the cultural fit has to be there, because your franchisor is your business partner every day, all the time. And you alluded to this earlier. I tell all my candidates, we're going to have you do some courtship and go on some blind dates with these franchise companies. And you may or may not get to the altar, because it's a mutual evaluation. So we don't want you to swipe right or left too quickly. We don't want you to fall in love too soon. We don't want you to break up too soon. It's really important to keep an open mind and really compare and contrast different models, simultaneously against each other. And there are often many times we get to the end and they say it's not the right time, or goodness gracious, I don't want all this responsibility. I'm just going to go look for another job. Perfect. That's still a victory, because we just saved you a tremendous amount of time, headache, and money, right? Because not everyone is fit to go to the franchise route.
Yep, I completely agree. And helping somebody, I think that the biggest part of closing or facilitating as a consultant is just helping get to a decision. And it doesn't really matter what the decision is. From a consultant perspective, the main focus is, can we help you get to a decision? Like, living in Wonderland or indecision is like the worst place to be in my mind.
Stressful.
That's the definition of hell for Sam, is when I have don't know what I'm doing. So I really think that somebody facilitating and helping somebody get to a decision, whatever that is super powerful. So what is this, the Guns acronym? What does that stand for, and how could we apply that into our lives?
I mean, again, I think really it's all about, women, like you had mentioned earlier. I mean, they have one of the hardest jobs ever out there. They are the CEOs of their family. And, they, do it so eloquently and naturally. And what they don't realize is it's just like running a business. Every business pretty much operates the same, right? So every business has sales and marketing and customer service and product and service or whatever they're offering them. And women, especially now because of the pandemic, women were wrongfully put in a position of choosing to be present in their children's lives or keeping their job because childcare evaporated during the pandemic. And those women are tailor-made for franchise ownership today. And so I just think that it's really important for women to realize that, they have good quality. They really understand already how a business works because they've already been running one usually, and they shouldn't take no for an answer. I mean, I think a lot of women still, unfortunately, are not looked at equally to males. And they have huge success if they want it.
That's a funny thing about women, because from a tax and legal perspective, it actually plays in their favor. And I don't know how many women fully understand this, but being a woman-owned business gets you certain tax breaks and benefits, grants, like certain things are available to women because they're still a minority in the business field. And so there's more advantage stacked in their favor to be successful in these areas. And that's not to say anything bad about anybody else. It just is fact that women-owned business. I know for my business, my wife is the owner of our business for exact reasons. It's like, it makes more sense for her to own 51% than for me to own all of it or the majority, just because of the benefits there. So it's interesting to consider what are the benefits specifically for women going into this, and how could that complement their lifestyle and give them more of what they desire out of life. So I'm curious, if somebody wanted to, let's say somebody's listening to this and they wanted to get in touch with you, they wanted to start the process of just like finding out if they're a good fit, finding out if there's stuff out there for them right now, if they're in the right financial position, where would they go to do an assessment and figure out if it's time to start working with you or not?
Yeah. So, I mean, they can go to my website. It's franchise-logic.com. I have 4 or 5 digital free downloads that they can grab and read. One of them is Escaping Corporate America. One of them talks about semi-absentee. So how we reference, you don't have to choose between a job and being a business owner. Another one is all about just diversification through wealth and income with franchises. And they can read those, grab those, download those. Welcome to all of them. I have videos. I have a blog with 80 some articles on there. There is a calendar link, and they can just grab 15 minutes on my calendar. We could just have a conversation, right? Do you think this is worthy? I mean, you have to be dedicated to the process, because I've really mastered a process that simplifies the matchmaking. But this is really a 90-day exploration, a journey, right? And anytime during that 90 days, we can part ways if it's not a good fit. And by the way, my services are completely free. So they're complimentary. No one will pay me for my services or my 20 plus years of small business or franchising experience. They can leverage that working with me and go on this journey. Grab 15 minutes. Let's have a discussion. If it makes sense to work together, there's a questionnaire that we can email them. It's a secured link, actually, for their protection. It's super easy, takes 10, 15 minutes to complete. And then what we do is we get together on Zoom. and we get to meet each other. And that's when they are the stars of the show. And we're going to really focus on their needs and their wants and their strengths and their goals, their spend tolerance, their requirements of what would make up an ideal opportunity. And then we can connect them to funding folks just to begin conversations for pre-qualifications. And then we get the party started. We get them underway looking at franchise concepts. And I'm with them every step of the way. And, you know, again, nobody has a crystal ball. We don't know if it's going to be a good fit or not. Not to toot my own horn, but I am typically 90% on my matching. I've had a huge handful of people that have bought 2 out of the 3 businesses I showed them because they just loved them both so much they didn't want to choose. So there's no rule that you can only buy 1 franchise. But remember, you have to get approved. The franchisor has to see that you're coachable, trainable, and can execute their proven model. Mm-hmm. And you have to believe this is a right fit for you and your family. You can visually see yourself being successful in this business. And then, you know, you go to the altar and you move forward. So it is meant to be a profitable business marriage at the end of the day. Yeah. And you're right, Sam. I mean, it's my role is to get them to a decision, whether it's yes or no. And no, by the way, is a perfectly fine decision.
Yep, absolutely. And it could just be no, not right now. Future. So there's so many different outcomes, but I think that even if you've never been through the process of really determining what could be a viable option for you, I think it's worth going through, even if you think there's no way in a million years that I'd be a good fit for this type of business, or I'm not a business owner, like all the limiting beliefs that you have about yourself. Every business owner that I know has had or still has the same limiting beliefs. They just decided to do it anyways. So,
right.
Yeah, I think that if you're listening to this and you're just like, well, that'd be nice for them, or they can do that, stop selling yourself short. Just be willing to go have a conversation and find out. It doesn't cost you anything. It does cost time, and opportunity cost is a commitment, right? But if nothing else, it's education, and you will know maybe right now is not the time. Maybe I want to wait for my kids to get 2 or 3 years older before I jump into something like this. Maybe I want them to all be in school before I jump in. Whatever it is, there may just be a timing thing. But if you know your options, you can make a decision. If you don't know your options, you don't have the liberty. We always talk about, we have the freedom to choose. Well, not really. If you don't have the education or the information, then you don't have the freedom to choose, because there's nothing to choose other than
you're letting someone else make that choice.
Yeah. So like the only way to really have the freedom to choose is to actually get educated and find out what your options are. And so that's what I would say. Just go find out what your options are. Like, it's not going to hurt you at all. And in most cases, it will probably benefit you to learn your options and go through this thought process. And if nothing else, maybe you'll just find out you really like being an employee, and you'll look at that with a renewed vigor, because you're like, you know what, I've seen the other side and I really like doing what I'm doing. Okay, cool. That's good too. You know, that's totally fine. So here's the last few questions here. I'm curious, what do you think is holding you back from reaching the next level of your legacy today?
You know, probably just time. I've reached a point in my business where I'm so busy I need to make some more hires because I just don't have enough hours in the day to really fulfill. You know, I want to spend most of my time helping and guiding people. So I think really just fine tuning and getting some more. I actually just posted a new ad today. I've gotten already like 17 resumes. So, yeah. So I think, eventually, who knows, like building a team of people, but, really our mission is helping people realize their dreams. Mm-hmm. Whether that's being a franchise business owner or not. Like you said, you're not going to walk away empty-handed. You're going to for sure know this is or is not the right path for you. But if it's not, you're going to for sure know how to conduct proper due diligence on a business if you decide to down the road. So
yeah, that's huge. What do you think the hardest thing you've ever accomplished has been?
The hardest thing I've ever been able to accomplish is really letting go of things that no longer serve me. I think it's just it's really, really important to do that. But sometimes it's just hard to let go of some of those things.
Sure. And what's the greatest accomplishment to this point in your life?
I would say the greatest accomplishment is really my husband and our marriage. I just think, that it's something that I'm really proud of. And we've had a ton of friends, unfortunately, that, having had never spent that much time with their spouse during quarantine, found out that they really didn't have the good match. And so I'm really blessed that actually brought us a lot closer. So.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. I love to hear that. I love to hear business owners who are making, like, not just making it work, but like thriving and loving their relationship. And what do you think that one or two habits, mindsets, or behaviors that you think contribute the most to your success?
Always looking at, okay, what am I doing tomorrow? Planning my day before, not just like strolling into the office in the morning and running with it. I work by appointment only, and my calendar changes often because people in life happens. So really being prepared for the day. And I would say the number one most important thing for me is sleep. Really getting a full 8.5, 9 hours of high quality sleep. I know, like, it used to be like a bragging right to say, oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead, right? But like, sleep is so important for our overall health and our energy that we need to bring to people that we work with and our loved ones. And so that for me is super important.
Awesome. Love that. So here's the final question. We have to pretend that you've died, and now we're 6 generations from now. So this is like, if you had children, your great grandchildren, maybe nieces, nephews, whatever, but like 6 generations from now, if there was a group of people sitting around the table discussing your life, the impact you had, and the legacy you left this world, what would you want them to be saying about your legacy 6 generations from now?
Well, I know they would be saying she was a complete badass. So, yeah, I mean, and again, I'm a girly girl. So my nickname is Hollywood with all my friends, because they're always like, oh, you're always so put together, Miss Hollywood, which is just, I've been, working for myself forever. And I dress like this every day, even though, even before the Zoom days, this is, just like, you put on dress clothes because you're working Monday through Friday. You're not just like sitting around in your sweats talking to somebody about business, right? And this is, how you present yourself to the world is really an eye-opener for people around you. So, complete badass, very authentic, very caring, almost too caring at fault, very creative, high energy, a woman who you probably, never had to try to read her mind, because she always was going to tell you what you wanted to hear, right or wrong. So really anchored by reality. And, I think authenticity is huge, because I think people really crave that. And I'm just like, this is just me. This is how I roll. You're either going to love me or you're going to hate me, right?
And I'm fine with either. I don't care how you feel about me. That's one of the things that my wife said she liked most about me, is she never had to think about, like, I wonder what Sam is thinking right now.
Right.
Because she would just ask, and then she'd hear it, and then she's like, I really didn't want to know that. Well, don't ask me. I don't know. But yeah, I love that. I'm sure that they will be saying that. So if you guys are listening, you want to go meet with her, then go to franchise-logic.com. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, franchise-logic.com. Thank you so much for gracing your presence with this show. Enjoy Colorado. I hope that it keeps raining and sunshine and all of the beautifulness over there. It's beautiful over there. If you guys haven't been to Littleton, Colorado, I highly recommend getting a chance to go out there. It is beautiful. So thank you so much, and we'll catch you guys next time on the Fuel Your Legacy Show. Thanks for joining us. If what you heard today resonates with you, please like, comment, and share on social media. Tag me, and if you do give me a shout out, I'll give you a shout out on the next episode. Thanks to all of those who've left a review. It helps spread the message of what it takes to build a legacy that lasts. And we'll catch you next time on Fuel Your Legacy.